One of the dumbest thing I've ever heard is to saying that Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent. Now, check this out. Check out what is the reason for that. His friend was Joslyn Maxwell, and her father was Robert Maxwell, and he was, I don't know, maybe a spy. Maybe he was working with Israel. After all, when he died, there was a big funeral for him in Jerusalem, and the prime minister at that time said that he did many things for Israel. So what? So how does that make Jeffrey Epstein, who never visited Israel, into a Mossad agent? Okay. So let's break it through. First of all, Jeffrey Epstein is Jewish. Okay, he's a Jewish by ethnicity. I don't know if he was Jewish by his religion. All right. Robert Maxwell was definitely a Jew. I don't know if if he was a religiously Jew. He was Jew by ethnicity. Now about his daughter, he had like 9 kids. I'm not sure if his wife was Jewish. So I'm not sure if Joslyn Maxwell was herself Jewish. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that she was not practicing Jewish. Considering that she was a madame and she was soliciting girls to have sex with Jeffrey Epstein, that's a very not a Jewish thing to do. So maybe she had Jewish ethnicity, yes, but she was definitely not a practicing Jew. All right. So Jeffrey Epstein was not an Israeli citizen. The same thing for Robert Maxwell and his daughter and his kids. All right. So what's the connection with Israel exactly? All right. Now, some people, so they're saying, like people like Tucker Carlson, are saying something so idyllic that because Jeffrey Epstein was good friend with Joslyn Maxwell, that her father was working with the Israelis, then that means that he was also working with the Israelis. Okay, you can say the same thing about you, Tucker. That okay, you have a good friend, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a good friend with the Jews. So by the same logic, you are a Mossad agent. Okay, not that it's a bad thing to be a Mossad agent, but the thing is that about Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell, I tell you what he did. He was not a Mossad agent. He was not Israeli, but what he did do, which was very important to Israel, is that when Israel was established, the Americans didn't want to sell Israel weapon, and Robert Maxwell was in Europe. He was a Holocaust survivor, by the way, and he also later fought against the Germans. Yes, and so he actually he helped a bit, just a bit, by the way. He helped a bit to Israel to find contract in Europe to buy weapons. And so that's basically what he did. And this is why when he died, afterwards, by the way, many years afterwards, what he did is that he was helping, he bought an Israeli newspaper called Ma'ariv. He was also the owner of some newspaper also in England, but he also bought an Israeli newspaper, Ma'ariv, and he invested. So right before he died, actually people start to know who he was, because I can tell you that in the 60s or 70s, nobody even knew who is Robert Maxwell in Israel. Okay, nobody was even talking about him. Only in the 90s, his name finally resurfaced. Now, when he died, there was a funeral to him. But by the way, there was a funeral, but it wasn't such a big deal. I, by the way, never heard of it. I was in Israel in the 90s, and the only thing I knew about Robert Maxwell was that he died on some ship. I didn't see the so-called funeral on TV, and what they say that the prime minister at that time, Yitzhak Shamir, said that he helped Israel. I didn't see it on TV, so that could be really something that's actually fake. All right, but I know that Yitzhak Shamir, the prime minister at that time, it was about the time of the beginning of the 90s. He was also he was in the Mossad or something like this, you know. So maybe he knew him or something like this. But it wasn't a big deal on Israeli TV. That's for sure. I can tell you that. Okay. In the 90s, Israel only had two television channels. So if there was something on TV, me as a kid, I watched everything on TV. So I can tell you that they didn't make a big deal about the funeral. Now, the same thing goes about this Mossad agent. Look, if he was okay, we don't know if he was definitely not a Mossad agent. Okay, we know he helped Israel. Okay, about his daughter is already 20 years in jail. Do you see any Israeli politician trying to promote her release, asking her release? No. All right. The same thing for Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. Now, when there is actual someone that helped Israel that is being arrested, Israel is actually doing quite a lot to release him. Look at the example of Jonathan Pollard. Jonathan Pollard was an American Jew that he went to jail for 30 years. For 30 years, he went to jail for spying for Israel. Now, the thing is that he was not a Mossad agent. He was not a Mossad agent, okay? It wasn't even an asset, okay? This is a private American citizen who happened to be Jewish that approached the Israeli embassy and basically told them, look, I have information from you, for you, from the American Navy. He, out of his own ideology, thought that there is information that the Americans are supposed to deliver to Israel, and they don't. And he thought that this information was crucial to Israeli security. Now, absolutely no one in the Israeli government knew about what's going on, okay? Because there was a rogue unit in the Israeli Mossad that listened to what he said and said, okay, you know what, okay. So basically, they broke protocol and they did things without too much asking permission clearly. And basically, what they did is that they actually cooperate with him without getting any kind of approval from the Israeli government or from the head of the Mossad. And they let him get all this information, even though they understand that it's very problematic because basically we're spying against the Americans, which is not cool, by the way. I can tell you it's not cool at all. And me as an Israeli, I'm telling you it's not cool, all right? It's not all right. But so he ended up getting caught. But ever since he got caught, the Israeli government was trying to release him, okay? For years, Israeli politicians, both from Israeli right and left, asked the Americans to release Jonathan Pollard, all right? And in the end, after like 30 years, Benjamin Netanyahu managed to convince Donald Trump to release him, all right? And he was released, and right now he's in Israel. All right, he got that's by the way, that's his first time coming to Israel. He got an Israeli ID card from the prime minister. It's very famous. But so if Joslyn Maxwell was a Mossad spy, how come zero Israeli government officials are appealing for her release? The same thing for Epstein. If Epstein was a Mossad agent, really, then Israel would ask the Americans to release him. But nothing like this happened. That's because none of them are Israelis, none of them are Mossad agents, and none of them were working with Israel, okay? Your only assumptions that they are is because they are related somehow to Jews, okay? All right, because of their ethnicity. So because of their ethnicity, they are suspected Mossad agents. That's super racist. Go fuck yourself.